Welcome to a very special episode of Blossom. of
Hello,
the Wine and Cheese My podcast. We're here in Balboa Park.
I'm Francesca.
Yes. Well,
Hello.
Francesca, you've been on the podcast before,
Yes,
but we're
second time.
yeah, we're this and wait. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see you again. I was like, wait, we've never met in person.
No, but we've never met in person, but it felt like we're old friends.
It does. It
Because of our talk,
does.
and we follow each other on Instagram already.
Yes. But I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I know I'm going to have this conversation again on another podcast, but I really haven't had it on here in regards to being a child-free Latina, especially in this day and age and what that means. In fact, but what prompted it was really um, your post. You had posted something, and then the backlash
Yeah, that was wild.
you got on it. So what was I can't remember the exact post that you had posted in regards to that. Oh, wait. First of all, you're not drinking. You're no longer drinking, really,
I do
right?
drink. I just don't drink as often.
Yeah.
I drink maybe once every few weeks.
Yeah.
If any.
And so she's drinking a coffee, and I am drinking wine. I'm drinking a Josh Sauvignon Blanc. And my husband was like, that tastes like water. I'm like, well, it is 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you gotta go light.
Yeah,
Start
so
light.
we're going like, so salud.
Cheers, salud.
I'm so glad we're finally meeting in person.
I know, it's been a bit. My husband likes to tease me. Side note on how loud I gulp. So hopefully the mic doesn't pick up my gulps, or maybe he's just a little sensitive. But anyway,
my husband likes to make fun of me of just how loud I am.
Okay, well, so we have that in common, kind of.
Yeah, and then I'm like, this is just how I am, and then he sees my mom, and he's like, yeah, this is how she is.
I love it though. That's why you're a host, because you're good at it. You've got the personality.
So, well, okay, good. I want you to talk about the post that you posted. Yeah.
So a little disclaimer to the people watching and listening. I was recently sick, so I might be coughing here and there. Hopefully I don't. And also I sound a little muffled, and I have sick brain. So I'm kind of like losing you need to bring me back to what we're talking about.
Yeah, no problem.
My brain's kind of all over the place. But anyway.
Well, that's just how we are here anyways.
Yeah, good. So going back to what we were talking about, I posted a video. Originally, it actually wasn't supposed to be about being child-free. I posted a really cute transition video of me changing outfits and dancing around different locations in Cabo. And so I actually went alone to visit my dad. And what made me make it child-free is that I had the independence and the open schedule to be able to go visit my father in Cabo and just spend a week with him and be able to create content as my work. And so I was thinking like, oh, that's so cool. If I had kids, I probably wouldn't have been able to just like get up and leave and spend a week and like be dancing around in different outfits throughout Cabo. Now I'm not saying that's reality for everyone with kids, but for me, I was like, that's awesome. I have the freedom. I'm able to do this. So when I posted it, kind of a last minute decision and a way to also harness that community of women, because I don't have that kind of community in person of child-free women in real life. Not many. Anyway, I have very little. And if they are, they're like way younger than me. I'm 37. They're probably 24,
You got me,
25.
girl. You got me now.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, I need more women like this. But so I posted this post and I put POV, your 37-year-old woman that's child-free, able to do what she wants when she wants, something along those lines. And I didn't really think much of it. I was like, this is a cute video. I'm going to post it. Hopefully I'm attracting the kind of women that I want in my community, and I can like, put out a little beacon to other women to like start following me and whatever, comment on this. Little did I know that it was going to be pushed to a completely different community, and I would say it was a lot of Christians just by the verbiage they're using, and the very extreme ones. Right. So a lot of them were very angry and triggered, and there was a lot of mean, hateful comments, and it got so bad. At first I was kind of responding because engagement, one, is important. Like if you post something, you shouldn't just leave it. You should respond to it, build that community, harness it, whatever. And I'm not just gonna not answer because you're being mean. Sometimes I will answer in response because I know other people are curious about what I'm gonna say, and it's a way of sticking up for other women like me, you
Right.
know. But then it just got really, really bad. It was like, as I scrolled, I no longer saw the positive comments from child-free women. I just started to see only negative comments, and they started getting as bad as somebody actually um, said that I reminded them, a little bit of a trigger warning, of their someone who molested them when they were 15.
What?
And I was like, yeah, this went from 0 to 100 real quick. And I was like, how is me dancing around happy saying I'm child free? How are you relating this to being evil or being
Yeah.
like a molester? Like, how does that make any sense at all? And so it kind of got like that, and then it got like a lot of people talking about my fertility and being useless and not having enough eggs anymore, and just on top of everything, I was on my period, like peak period, so I was not handling it good. And so I read it and I was just kind of like, I can't handle this. I can't, like, any. And being on your period, obviously you're very in touch with your body and being a woman, and like you're going through
Yeah.
all these things. And I was just like, I can't believe all these people are attacking my fertility. They're attacking my age. Like, some people were just like, for no reason, you could tell they were just trying to be mean.
Yeah.
Like, first off, I don't think it's really, I don't know why people think it's mean to say you look older, but it is in the society. And a lot of people were like, you look like you're 50, you look like you're so old, you look way too thin, or you look, why do you have a mom bod if you're 37? Like, just all kinds of hate. And I just thought it was really interesting when, I decided in the end, I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn these comments off because it's not good for my mental health. It's not doing anything. Reasoning with these people isn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
Other women seeing these comments is only going to be hurtful. I'm going to turn this off. So I turned my comments off, and I felt way better. But at the same time, it gave me the space to really think about it. And it just made me think, you know, these people are triggered by something. What is that? Like, what is it that saying I'm a child free woman makes you immediately want to put me down and make me feel bad about myself?
Yeah.
I just think it's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and the timing that we're doing this is interesting as well, because I'm not going to say his name because he doesn't deserve any more press, but the Kansas City Chiefs kicker,
Oh, yeah.
where he just came off of saying, like, you should basically telling women that their goal in life should be to be a homemaker and be a mother. And albeit he was at a Christian university, I'm sure there was obviously people who agreed with him, and obviously there's a lot of people that don't. But like, I'm 46, I'm child free. I've just recently, but on a whole different perspective, I've just recently gained two amazing bonus sons in my life, right? But they're adults. And I don't understand. I don't know. I guess it's social media or whatever, where people think they just have free reign to tell you like who you should be. Or I mean, it's like this. We've had this, like, I feel like a lot of people were in the middle for a while, like do what you want to do, and now we have just these extremes of no, you shouldn't. I mean, I think it's just kind of what we're seeing in society, right? What we're seeing in the rule of law, what we're seeing in all these of people trying to take women's choices away from them and their
Right.
bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
And we discussed that with, in regards to reproductive justice and reproductive health care few weeks back with Audia. But what was the thing, like, obviously you said when you took the comments, when you turned them off, it made you feel better, but what was it making you feeling like in between, like starting to read those comments before you turn them off?
Yeah, and even after, I mean, there was still, like, honestly, I've never been so affected by like hate comments, and I've had a lot because I've had a lot of viral videos, and most of the time I'm just like, oh, it's sad. People that are sad, it's bots, it's 12-year-old kids that are bored, it's whatever, it's people that don't know me. But it's normally comments that don't get me on such a deep level, and this one, I think, affected me. Even though I turned the comments off and I felt more relaxed, I still was affected by it for like a few weeks after. I think it did make me stronger. Like now, if that happened again, I feel like I know my place, and I've like thought about things, and I feel a lot stronger. But in that time, originally, I did feel really on what you're talking about. Like I kind of felt my place in society as a woman in a way, that it made me see how many men, because there was a lot of men. There were hateful women, but there was a lot of men. Like the majority was men, and it made me see how they actually see women, where they actually want us to be. They want us to be below them. They want us to feel less. They want us to feel that we have to be young and fertile, and we're useless if we don't give birth. And it did kind of scare me, because it's this side of society that you don't see that much. It's kind of hidden, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of threw me in a spiral, because I started thinking about who these people were, what are their other belief systems. There's people out there. I know this is really on another topic, but it made me think of, like, if there's people like this, there's also people hidden in their basements throwing Nazi signs on their shoulders, like secretly sewing things, and like
Yeah.
people that are secretly thinking these things that are, things that we think is like already past, that shouldn't be in 2024.
Yeah.
But it's still here. It's very strong. And all it needs is one person to say something, and then they all kind of come out of the woods and say, yeah, so it just, visually, in my head, if I close my eyes, it makes me feel like people with picket fence, like people with
Like
fire
torches.
yeah, like running towards me, almost being like, let's burn her. Like, whoa, if I lived in, like, the witch times, would I be burned for this? Would I be like, oh, she's a witch? Like, I don't know. It made me feel very small, and especially as a Latina woman, it made me feel even smaller. And you know how it is in our culture. We need that. We're pretty much bred. I don't know about how it was in your family. I know for a lot of my friends, and I know for me, like, we were bred to have kids pretty much. Like, I got sent to a school in Mexico for a couple of years in college, and I know they were hoping I would find a husband there. And my parents were always calling me, being like, how come you haven't found a husband? How come you're not dating anyone? There's a lot of eligible bachelors. And I'm like, because I'm in school, I'm enjoying my life, and I haven't met anyone. Like, what's the problem? Anyway, I digress. But there's a lot, as you can tell, a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings. And also, as somebody that, in my little bubble of San Diego, with my friends that are very open-minded, in our society here, I feel like in general is very open-minded, it just opened up a whole nother part of the US that was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's scary.
I was reading something, and now I can't remember where I was reading, but it was saying that more and more Latinas are choosing to go child free.
I love it.
And for me, and I want to ask for you, but for me, it was never, I guess not making a choice is a choice, right? Because it wasn't like I was like, oh, I have to get married. Oh, I have to have kids. Oh, I was just like, if it happens, it happens. Like, I think I always assumed I would. But even now, at my age, I don't feel my biological clock. I never felt that biological clock ticking. And my sister, when she came to visit me in Dallas when I was living in Dallas, and we were having conversation, and she was like, you don't have to choose, but if you had to choose, would you rather like find a partner in life, or would you rather have kids? And I never thought of it in that way. And I was like, well, if I had, yeah, and I was like, well, if I had to choose, I would choose a partner in life, because you raise your kids to leave.
Right.
So if I had to choose, I'm going to raise my kids to leave and not have a partner, like to spend my life with and to celebrate with, because you don't want your kids to, I mean, at least most healthy parents don't want their kids to stick around, like, I mean, be part of your family, yes, but not like to be able to live their own lives, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's when I knew. And I think at some level for me, I think I always knew I probably wasn't going to bear a child. And now with all of these medical issues I'm having, it was pretty much confirmed, right, that I can't, I mean, physically, I can't have kids anyways. So, um, so I guess, like I said, not making a choice was a choice because it was just always like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Hmm.
Did you always feel like, did you ever feel like you wanted kids? Did you think it was just going to happen? Or were you kind of in the similar vein of if it happens, it happens? Or were you like, no, I don't want kids?
Um, it was a little both. I think when it's kind of weird because when I was really, really young, I always saw myself with kids. I always thought I would have a family. I always kind of envied like when we go to my grandmother's house and she had all her like um, grandkids and kids running around. We would all meet up in a house, and so I did grow up with that like very strong Latin culture of like a lot of kids. Everyone's in one house. Every Sunday we meet, and we're always together. But as I got older, um, I kind of just lost it. I don't know what it. I don't know what happened. I think life got more complicated, and I just started to realize how hard things are. Like, making money is hard. Just on a day to day, keeping myself happy and healthy is hard. Like it's a lot of hard work, and I had my dog, and my dog was like my baby, and taking care of her was a lot of work, and I kind of realized like I don't want more responsibility. Like I actually that perfect family thing that I was shown when I was little maybe isn't for me. So as I got older, I kind of was like, well, maybe when people would ask me, I'd say maybe, when I was I think 27, I started to say, well, my clock isn't ticking yet, like how you said. But every year I was like, maybe next year I'll feel it. Maybe the year after I'll feel it. Maybe, and then all of a sudden I'm 37 and I still don't feel that urge. And even when my friends come around with their babies and stuff, I don't really feel that. I love children. Like I love toddlers. Everyone loves toddlers. They're adorable. I mean, not everyone, but that age is just so
Yeah.
cute. But I don't really like babies, and I don't really like responsibilities, and I like my free time. So that's kind of how that happened. And then there's also the part of me that says, if one day for whatever reason I did get pregnant, then we would think. Then I'd have to like seriously think about it because it's not that I'm not for your body or choice, but like I also think if something happens, it happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would have to really deeply think about it. But I just no. Every day that comes, every other passing day, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm good.
Okay, I know somebody's probably thinking it, so I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
Is this a conversation that you and your husband had before you got married, and what were his feelings on it? I know somebody's probably asked the question. That's why I'm asking, because I'm sure you can see me rolling my eyes as I'm asking
No,
the
I've had people ask me that, or people assume stuff. Honestly, I don't remember if we talked about it before we got married. I don't remember. I know that once we were married, we kind of you know what? I think we kind of went through the same path, I believe. I think when we got married, we were both kind of like, I don't know, maybe not. Let's see, if it happens. And then as like our marriage progressed, it got more firmer that we didn't want. And so now we still talk about it. And I've initiated a conversation as a woman, like with him, because I think he's perfectly happy not having children. But I've always had this worry in me, and I think I'm starting to get to the end where I'm feeling more confident in my decisions, but there has been years of me kind of like questioning myself, like, am I making the right decision? Is this stupid? Am I doing this for reasons that aren't the right reasons? So I've had this conversation with him of like, what if next year I want a kid? Like, what's gonna happen? And he seems very like, no, I don't want kids. I'm pretty positive if I wanted a kid, I would convince him to have one because I know he loves me.
Mhm.
But this is a conversation that we always have, and we always kind of check in with each other and like, how are you feeling on this? And he's like, nope, still don't. And I'm like, yeah, I don't either. Okay, great, we're good. So I think I got really lucky, in the sense that we're on the same page. I don't know how this would have worked out if you wanted kids and I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Well, then also, and I've started to get it, right? You just get married and everybody's like, so when are you having babies? I've been married a month and we've already talked about it. Me and my husband Tonyo, where we had the conversation before we got we had just gotten serious, and he's like, oh, you know what, we never talked about this, but I don't want any more kids. And it didn't stab me in any way. I think I always assumed I was going to end up with a guy with kids, but maybe younger. um my sons, now they told me I could introduce them as my sons, so
Aw,
are 26 and 21,
that's nice.
and they make it very, very easy to love them, and I get to kind of have those motherly doting things,
That's amazing.
like drive safe, I love you, blah blah blah, and like, okay, let me know if you're all right, okay,
Right.
do you need anything? I kind of get to have that. But a couple years ago, I took my oldest nephew, when he graduated high school, I took him to New York for his graduation present for a week. If I had kids, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I get that there's certain things that and I'm not, and I love kids. My mom had a daycare growing up. Um, I love being Thea J. I love, um, even my friends' kids, I'm like, yeah, they can come over and spend the night. We'll have a slumber party, all that stuff. But I also then get to go bye.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I'm the
I don't
same.
I don't have to be the heavy. With my nephew, sometimes I have to be the heavy. But
That's so nice. You have a nephew, though.
I have four. I have four
That's
nephews, a couple
amazing.
nieces, and then I have all my friends' kids. Or I'm Thea J too.
Aw.
So, but I don't have to be the disciplinarian. I don't have to
You get
be.
to enjoy it.
Yeah, I get to enjoy that time with them, and um, like I said, it wasn't planned that I wasn't gonna have kids, and then when I got with my husband, he didn't want kids, and I wasn't like, oh, well, never mind, we can't be together. I was like, all right, that's fine. But now since we've gotten married, people are like, so you guys gonna have kids? I'm like, I'm 46, first
Yeah.
of
See,
all.
I think that needs to stop. That of one asking women when they're gonna have kids,
Mhm.
or asking them how many kids you have or whatever. I think that needs to stop.
Yeah.
Because you said earlier, you have medical complications. You don't need to tell a stranger that.
No.
And it's very difficult to get into hey, when are you having kids? And then well, you don't want to bring that up.
And I've heard that more and more. And how many times do you see people oh, I've had friends who've had to go through IVF. The Latinas had to go through IVF. People think oh, well, you're Latina. Somebody looks at you, you get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
For some people, yeah. For my sister, that was the case. But my youngest sister doesn't want kids, and she is with somebody who has kids, and she's fine. She's okay with
That's awesome.
being part of a family like that. I'm okay with being part of this family that I get so blessed to be part of. But not everybody has that opportunity, and not you don't know somebody's struggle. You don't know somebody's. So I agree with you. The asking of, are you gonna have kids, or are you gonna? You just don't know.
You
And
just don't
even
know.
did you ever watch the movie Steel Magnolias?
A long time ago, and I don't even remember.
So Julia Roberts has type 1 diabetes,
Uh-huh.
and it's so severe that the doctor recommends not having a child because it could put too much pressure on her kidneys, and she does it anyways.
Oh no.
And then she ends up dying when
Oh.
the kid's 2, I think. Maybe the kid's maybe 1 or 2, because it put so much pressure on her kidneys. You don't know what somebody's struggle is. You don't know. Maybe they just don't want kids. Maybe they had a traumatic childhood and haven't healed from their own traumas.
Yep.
And don't want to put that on another human being.
Or they had miscarriage, or there's so many. I had a friend that had cancer, ovarian cancer, and she couldn't have kids because of that. There's so much trauma that can be linked to this question, and it's just, I hate how okay it is. And there's a part of me that when people ask me, even though thank God I don't have, not that I know of, I haven't been tested or anything, but I don't have any medical issues or any fertility issues that I know of. So when people ask me this, it's not necessarily because of me that I'm getting upset, but I just think of all these women. What if I did have a problem?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? And it kind of, I don't know how bad this is, but it kind of makes me want to start saying, oh, I had a miscarriage, just to make people feel very uncomfortable. and like shut them up? Because
Yeah.
they should feel uncomfortable asking that question.
It was yeah. I don't know. For some reason, I always had a feeling I couldn't have kids. Like,
Really? You felt
yeah,
it?
yeah. I didn't know why, but I always like felt like I wasn't gonna be able to have my own kids. Um,
It's so interesting.
yeah, and I don't like I said I don't know why, but the sad part is for the last 20 plus years I've been trying to have a doctor test me and everything and find out like what's going on because I wanted to know and they wouldn't because they're like, well, you're young, you're healthy, they didn't see anything unusual, but you're not gonna, but when you're having like these crazy heavy periods and cramps since you started having your period and you get sick to the point of nausea or you get like why aren't you, and then you have a history, like I have a history of hysterectomies in my family. Actually that's where that's the path that I'm headed towards.
What's
Is
a hysterectomy?
they pull out your uterus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I cannot wait.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
Like, let's
well,
go.
I know, I'm like, but I mean, I have to wait. I have to be on this stuff for 6 months because of all the other complications. I have fibroids. I have endometriosis. I have still these endometrial pockets of something else. It's caused an enlarged uterus, which has caused pressure. I'm like, put pressure on my bladder, and my uterus is now fused to my intestines.
What? That's crazy. Does that hurt?
It doesn't hurt, but I mean, my cycles are terrible,
Yeah.
and I'm so bad.
Huh.
But like, had I not ended up in the hospital a few months ago in December, had I not ended up in the hospital and almost died, and I know people are probably like, oh yeah, no, serious. I like the doctor said it. He didn't think I was gonna make it past that night. I had such bad sepsis.
Oof, that's bad.
Yeah, that he didn't think I was gonna make it past that night. He thought I was done.
Oy.
And but my body's like, bitch, we are not done. We have more to accomplish on this world.
Good. I'm so happy. I'm happy you're here with me today.
Me
Talking
too.
about this.
But you just don't know what somebody like. Had I not had to go through that and then all of the follow-up stuff,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have found all of these things. And these are things that I have literally been talking with my friends and trying to get an answer for 20 years. So like I said, I think just intuition wise, I just always had a feeling I wasn't going to be able to have kids. I didn't know. Um, and who knows if I would have gotten pregnant, like what those complications would have been with all of the things that are
Yeah, it
going on
could have
with
been bad.
me. And the now you guys know, right? But I mean, like I didn't even know when I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
So what if I did, like you said, what if I did want a child really bad, but I kept having miscarriage after miscarriage, or my life was in danger,
Right.
or something, and like, I shouldn't have to write a note across my chest saying like,
It's such a personal thing.
I'm barren, or I'm this, or I'm that, or oh, I don't want kids, or I have childhood trauma. I don't want to impose on another generation.
Right.
Like,
Which is like, it shouldn't be that way.
unfortunately, to some people, that's what women are.
Yep.
They're baby machines.
To a lot of people, which is really sad.
Right? And you're thinking, I mean, I'm sure you felt that on your post of seeing this, that it astounds me. That's the only word I can use, of how many people think that they have the right to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, with not only your life but your body.
It has nothing to do, like, it literally affects them zero. Not at all. It's just, and then a lot of people are like, I had people being like, oh, you're buying this propaganda, like, and so there's this whole other conspiracy theory thing of like, there's a propaganda going on Instagram and like social media of like people trying to do population control, which like, just like, what, some people just don't want kids, or some people just have issues. It's not that deep. It's not that like conspiracy theory. Come on.
Yeah. So this was several years ago when I lived in Dallas. And, you know, I used to go to one of the mega churches out there and everything. And a friend had come over and we were talking. And I have a friend in Dallas who does a lot of rescue animal stuff. Um, she recently just lost her last dog, but she had like 4 or 5 dogs at one point.
Aw.
She does so much for um, you know, for animal rescue and everything like that. And I don't even know exactly what he said or how he said it, but basically saying that, like, oh, like, why are you going to get married if you're not going to have kids? That's, I think, what he was
Oh
saying.
yeah, some people do think that too.
Yeah. And I was just like,
Yeah.
well, why do you have to have kids if you're married?
Yeah.
Well, that's how God designed it. Da, 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 da. And I was like, but God's plans are different for everybody, whether you believe or not. Universe, whatever,
Right.
you know. I mean, like I said, I was very involved in church at this point. And I was like, God's plans for me are not the same for His plans for you, and they're not the same for. I said, you know, what if His plans for her are to she doesn't have children, so she can help these animals, so she can because she has the time to do that. She has the time to be able to invest. You don't know what God's plan is.
Yeah.
So for you to assume that just because you get married, you have to have kids, first, that breaks you down by just, again, the baby
Exactly,
machine. Like,
which is
you're
what a
no
lot.
longer you.
Yeah.
You're just here to give babies.
That's all you're here for.
Yeah. And
I don't think that's what God intends either. Like,
yeah.
I think He wants us to be happy.
Yeah, and I also think, like, he put, you know, whether, again, whether you believe in God or not, or whether it's the universe, or whether you just think it's all random, right? We all have our own reasons for being here. Even me and you, we're both Latinas, we're both child free, but we're both here for different reasons. We
Right.
have different things that we want to accomplish in our lives. And that doesn't make you or me any less of a human.
No. Yeah. And I think it's really important to just have these conversations so other women, no matter what walk of life you're in of being child free, can just feel like this sense of community. Because I think it's really weird how one of the things that I noticed of my like post is that people, like, I had women being like, she shot first. Like, some women, I remember specifically one post was like, you fired first, so now we're responding. I'm like, I fired? Like, I'm just celebrating my own life. Like,
Yeah.
I'm celebrating this way of life. Like, how come women with kids can celebrate and be like, I've got my babies, I'm so happy, but I can't say I'm child free and I'm really happy and I'm, you know. And it was like, I just, it's weird because I think only women that don't have kids can understand this. But I think it's weird that we can't like be happy this way without people getting offended.
Because they think you're saying something about their life.
It's so weird.
But it's not. You're not saying anything about their
has
life.
Nothing. I don't see a mom walking around or posting about her kids and then be like, "Screw you! Like, you're attacking me of not having kids." Like,
yeah.
it's so
or
weird.
Oh, poor lady, poor woman, poor thing.
Exactly.
Ay, pobrecita.
God
She
forbid
has
I
kids.
say something like that.
What? No.
Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah, I totally
It's
totally
so
get that.
It's just very confusing, and it's one of those things that just boggles my mind. Like, I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I like it, and the thing is oftentimes, like you said, like, I love kids. I love kids. Oh my gosh, I grew up around kids. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. Like, my sisters are 5 and 7 years younger than me, and like, all my cousins' kids. Like, yes, give me all the kids, and then I can give them back to you.
Yeah, I think it's weird that, like, I have a cousin who has, I mean, most of my cousins have kids, but like one of my cousins, she saw me like playing with her kids, and she like said, "Oh my God, you're so good with kids. I'm surprised you don't want them." Like, and I thought it was really, and I get a lot of those comments often where they're like, expect you to, because you don't want kids, to hate children.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always go, I have child free friends that hate kids, sure, but it doesn't go hand in hand.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is, like, people used to tell me that I should be a teacher. You're so good with kids. You should be a teacher. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I want to keep liking kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be a teacher because I want to keep liking kids, because I do love kids.
Or it's like, you should have your own kids. Another thing that really bothers me is that people always tell me, I don't know who did you. I don't remember checking your page. Who did you end up marrying?
Oh, his name is Antonio, and we met on Bumble.
So he's Latin.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
Latin. He's Mexican.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Congrats again.
Thank you.
So John, for those that don't know me, my husband, his name is John Smith. So he's very,
Yes.
very white boy.
But she refers to him as Juan often.
Yes, I call him John, and he responds to it. It's so funny.
Well, I don't call my husband Antonio. I'm like Antonio, and I'm like, cause his name is no, his name's Antonio.
Yeah, I don't know why I started calling him Juan. I just liked it. And the funniest, he's so cute. He'll be like, he does like little things where he like refers to himself as Juan, like instead of saying me too or también, he goes Juan bien. Like you're so cute. It's really funny. But anyway, so Juan and I, people always tell us like, oh, but your babies would be so cute. They'll be all mixed. It is the weirdest thing to me that people are like, but you'll have little mixed babies, like fetishizing the mixed race thing, and like, oh, John has blue eyes, and his whole family has blue eyes, so they're all like, oh, but they may have little blue eyes, and I'm just like, that is so weird to me that you're telling me to have kids because they're gonna be cute.
And I know, and that's all. You're in love. They're gonna be so cute. Yeah. And what if they're terrors?
Exactly. What if they come out, not 100? What if they don't have an arm? What if they're cross-eyed? What if
now you're not gonna love them?
Yeah, you guys not gonna love them. You're gonna be like, oh, she shouldn't have had kids. Like, it's just such a weird, just everything about being a woman and having kids, and like the comments that are okayed are weird to me.
It's so true though. It's yeah, we need to normalize not asking women if they're having kids. I think if like I don't ask that, but I've asked my friends like, "Oh, do you want kids?" Because I feel like that's a different question than when are you having kids.
That is a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because they'll be like, "Oh, this," and I'm like, "Oh, well, do you guys even want kids?" And they're
because you're not assuming. You're not like, when are you having them?
Yeah,
like
because if somebody asks me like, "Oh, are you guys gonna have kids?" I don't take offense to that as, "Are you gonna have kids?" versus like, "Oh, when you guys gonna start having kids?" I'm like.
Right.
No. If they've asked like, "Oh, are you guys gonna have kids?" And but because of our ages, right? Antonio's gonna be 50 at the end of this year. People are like, "Oh, you should get on it," and I'm like, I'm thinking dirty thoughts right now, but
yeah, shut up.
I'm like, I am, but not the baby, not for the babies.
Don't you worry, I am.
But no babies will be involved.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
They don't have to worry about it. That's so annoying. I'm obviously triggered, and I'm a very contrarian person. So like, if somebody tells me to do something, I do the opposite. And so I know it's not a good thing, and that's part of my internal struggle of I'm always like, am I just not having kids to rebel? Am I just like, screw you, society, screw you, mom? Like, that's why I'm not having kids? I don't know, maybe. But I just think also if you want women to have kids and have them for the right reasons, where like they actually want it and they're ready for it, then we shouldn't be pressuring women at all. Maybe if there wasn't this like constant pressure, then some moms would be happier because they had them because they wanted them, not because they did it for wrong reasons,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, then also all the legality stuff is like forcing so many women to have children that they don't want as well. And what happens when you have children that you don't want? Like you try not to resent the child, but I would imagine there's still some resentment coming through because this was not your plan. This is not what you wanted.
Yeah.
So I like, what, one thing that I always wondered, and I had asked my parents because about the grandkid situation, right? Because for the longest time, my sister provided 4 grandboys. And then for a while, my mom was like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to, she'd be like that. Well, I don't know if I'm going to get any more. And I'm like, you probably not. So be happy with what you got. Like I would say stuff like that. But, as we're getting older, as we got older and everything, and I was like, Mom, chances are I'm probably going to end up being with somebody who already has kids. Like, how are you going to feel about that? And this is even before I met Antonio. And she's like, the more the merrier. They'll be my grandkids. If you marry into that, they'll be my grandkids too. And she's already, like we spent Mother's Day, me and Antonio, he took his mom to golf, and then we went to my parents' house with our youngest. And she was like, "Oh, mijo, can you go do this?" Or like instantly part
Bringing
of
them
the
into the family,
family.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's nice.
like, for me, that was always more of a concern because, obviously I wanted whoever I'm with, I wanted those kids to accept me, whether they were young or older, and they're adults. So I was like, how I have to defer to them in regards to, like, how do you guys want me to refer to you as? What do you want me to refer to you as? Is your first name, as my stepson, or and they're both like, you can call us your sons.
That's so nice.
And I was like, oh. And
And kids can come in different forms like that. Like, it doesn't
you
always
don't
have to
have,
be, yeah. You can also adopt. Like,
yeah,
you can have dogs.
you can be, I mean,
Like,
I think being a mom is not necessarily birthing a child, obviously, because you have adoption, you have surrogacy, you have,
yeah.
there's all of these other things, but it's more about, like, I like raising, being part of a child's life as they're being raised up, being part of that community.
Yeah, there's many different ways.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting also that I got a lot of people that said, like, in the comment section, like, oh, you're coping, oh, you're actually really unhappy, like, happy people don't post things like these. A lot of you're so lonely. Another one was like, which I thought was funny, was cat women were catching a lot of strays, like a lot of them were like, oh, go home to your cats. Like, I'm like, what? Why is it that I'm unhappy if I'm posting this stuff?
Yeah.
um I don't know, something you said right now just reminded me of that. Don't know what it was, but
Yeah, and well, we're saying, being a mom, I know I keep changing my legs position, but
no, mine keep kind of falling asleep. So
yeah, I
moving them.
know. I'm like trying to get where it's not falling asleep, or I'll be like this.
Yeah, this one
um
seems to be working for me.
in regards to just being a mom comes in different forms, and I have it somewhere. I have a woman's Bible, and actually in the women's Bible it was talking about that, like, because it has like separate things. I haven't dove into that in a long time because I honestly stopped going to church.
That's interesting. What do you mean the woman's Bible?
It's like they really highlight the women of the Bible and tell their stories a little bit more in depth on separate pages.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, and then they're like, it actually gives you like questions of like, are you feeling down? Are you feeling this? Are you feeling that? And then it's like, are you feeling down about not being a mother? Mothers come in different forms. Mothers, like, it's not, you don't have to bear a child to have a mother, to be a mother, blah blah blah. And it's actually in there, so it's like the regular, New International Version of a Bible, I think. And then it also has like cutaways very specific of asking women questions in regards to their life, or let's talk about, Sarah, and there's a whole page dedicated to more information on Sarah and different things like that, because the Bible was written by man.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So they're not, so of course when you look, I think that's also another thing when we think of Christianity, and when we think of religious, and when we think of these things, like, these texts are made by man. Even like homosexuality was never part of the Bible until the 1950s.
Oh,
And an American man added that in.
interesting.
Changed the text, and so there was no reference to sexuality, to homosexuality prior to, but now we think homosexuality is bad because it's in the Bible, but it's not. It wasn't in the Bible prior to the 1950s. So when we're talking about like women and how women should obey their men, like, I often think now, like, what text is left out, or what was the mindset of the man who wrote this text. It's kind of given me a whole different perspective when I'm reading, or I haven't read the Bible in a very long time, but when I started going back to look at the Bible, it started giving me a whole different thing. So what do you think? Like, do you think you'll ever do you think you'll continue to ever speak about like this, or
sorry,
or what do you think how do you think you're playing a role in the conversation?
So I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot. Part of me getting all those negative comments, it's a lot. It's a lot of intake for one person from both sides, really, because I'm getting I've never gotten so many DMs. Like and the DMs are all positive, which is great. I don't have any negative people coming into my DMs, thank God. Not yet, knock on wood. But like a lot of women saying that there's the good side is that there's a lot of women that are like, you know, you talking about this makes me feel seen. It makes me feel less lonely. It makes me feel like it's okay to have these doubts. It makes me feel okay that like I don't want kids, or it makes me feel at peace with myself that I couldn't have kids, and now, you know, I'm here and that's okay. Like it's just another way of living your life. Um, I've gotten DMs from moms, from women that can't have kids, from women that like aren't sure if they want kids, from women that have decided they don't want kids and like have no one to talk to about it. So that part of me makes me feel like that sense of community that not only they need but I need too. You know, like this is especially at like now going into, as soon as I turn 37, I'm like, and my dog of like 16 years just recently
I
passed. I
know,
feel
because
like,
you we were I was gonna give you the
oh right,
stroller.
yeah, the timing, it just no
Yes,
never happened.
because my pup, like I think maybe a month before, had
I know it's so
passed.
sad losing a puppy or dog. She wasn't a puppy. She's always a puppy to me.
Yeah,
Um, well, she passed, and just that happening made me kind of see my life like in different stage. Like I'm officially entering this new stage of womanhood. You know, like having her was still attached to like my college years and my getting married and like getting my first house, and now I'm like I just bought our new house, which is like our official home. I'm like I've officially decided I don't want kids. I'm entering a new stage of womanhood. My hormones are changing, like, and so having these conversations with other women, I feel like is really important at this stage of my life, and it makes me feel less lonely. It makes me feel more sure of myself. It makes me um, feel less attacked. But then there's the negative side, and also like being able to be that person for these women feels great, and it feels like there's like a calling there. But then there's another part of me that's like all this negativity being thrown at just me, and me having to take it in is a lot
yeah,
for my mental health. And like I don't think, like I said, I think having this happen made me stronger, but you know, only I think anybody's mental health will not be good if you're getting that kind of negativity thrown at you all the time. And I am a very sensitive person, so I think I don't want to like go too hard into it, but I do kind of want to talk about it. I want to keep it in the mix. You know, it's a part of my life. It's who I am. I think I have a community of women that are very much like me and like when I talk about that stuff. So I kind of want to keep it in, but I think I'm going to be a lot more careful with what I put out. Like a lot of my husband was telling me, like, I don't understand why people think I'm attacking them. My husband was saying, like, you know, do you think um, maybe the way you're phrasing it comes off as an attack? I'm like, I don't, I mean, you know, they're reading in between the lines here. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything, like, but they're feeling attacked for some reason. So I feel like, one, screw them if they feel attacked. That seems like a them problem. But at the same time, I don't want to cause that to happen to me.
right.
I don't want to get that negativity. So I think I'm going to just be more aware of how I say things. But there's also a part of me that feels very strongly about women's rights and like all this that has been happening lately. You know, this was just like a little thread being pulled out of the large everything
School.
that's happening. Yeah, like even when the whole abortions thing happened, you know, the abortion rights, and um it just kind of made me get really upset and really angry, and this kind of scares me when I see this of what could possibly happen. And I think a lot of people don't understand how many people out there actually don't want to see women be independent, and they don't want to see women feel confident in themselves, whatever their decision may be. um Largely men, of course. Unfortunately, there's also women that feel this way, but there's largely the men. And I feel that if we just don't talk about it, if we just let people make us feel ashamed of, you know, I'm child free, but I'm not going to talk about it because it
Yeah,
upsets people. Like, it's just allowing for that thread to be pulled more and more until one day we're going to see another right taken away, and then another right taken away, and it could reverse easier than people think. Like I was talking to my friend when they started what was it? It was when they started talking about abortion rights. I was talking to her. I'm like, dude, this isn't good. That means like, I bet you the next is going to be contraceptives. Like, we're not going to be able to have birth control. And she's like, there's no way. And this is a smart. My friend is smart. She's a smart girl, and she's just like, no, there's no. And she's very liberal too. You know, she's like, there's no way they would take that away. Like, that's ridiculous. That's old time stuff. And what happened shortly after? They started fighting about birth control,
Yeah.
and I was like, see, and how many women think it won't happen. There's no way they'll like reverse that stuff. So little things like this,
even as recent as the 1970s, women couldn't have a credit card without their husband's permission.
And that's not that far away.
Yeah.
Like, really.
I was born in 77,
Yeah.
so
I was born 10 years late after you. So I mean, that's like,
yeah,
that's not that long in the grand scheme
No.
of things. That's like a blink of an eye.
it is.
And I think these conversations are really important, even though it seems like stupid. Like, again, another comment was like, why do you feel the need to talk about this? Like,
He's like, Lee's looking behind the little tree.
what are you doing, little guy? Oh, he's so cute. No, there's no food here for you.
Yeah, we have no food.
No food. I wish I had a nut, but no. Oh, he's so
Bye.
cute. Oh, goodbye. So yeah, some people are like, why are you even talking about this? This is such a stupid conversation. Nobody cares if you're child free. And it's like, actually, people do care. And it's important we talk about this. And I don't care if some people think it's ridiculous, because it's one thing in this whole thing.
Absolutely. It's like you said, they do one thing, next comes another, next comes another, next comes another. Next thing you know, we're in The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I was thinking that. I was trying.
I never watched it, honestly. Let me tell you, I never watched it because I was like, I would be so pissed off watching this show.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't watch it.
It's insanely stressful and terrifying. Yeah.
Because I mean, I just know what it's about, and then I would hear people talking about it, but I was like, oh, that's not a show I'm gonna watch because I can't. I will be angry all the time during and after watching that, and I would probably bring it up all the time.
Yeah.
So,
but that's how it happened.
Yeah,
it was like slowly taking away the rights, and then all of a sudden, like,
they gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Women were baby makers. Like, that's all they were good for. That's scary,
girl. No.
And there's too many people out there that, like, I think the people that are really negative and hateful, or like super extreme religious, are holding on to these things so hard that they're the ones that are going to rally for it, while people like me that are very, like, I'm scared to talk about it because the emotional toll of it. Like, people like me that are more emotional and like want my own inner peace, that maybe won't talk about it, and then the negativity is going to take over the, like, positive, sensitive people. It's just, that's how it happens. So that part,
the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah, so that part of your, like, will you talk about it? Like, that's the part of me that wants to keep talking about it, because I'm like, it's hard, and I feel like I'm getting the brunt of it, but then the other part of me is like, somebody needs to talk about it,
Yeah.
And if I'm getting this strong of a response from all these women, like, that means something.
No, it totally does. It means we do need to have more conversations about it and say it's okay. Like, if you want to have kids, that's cool. If you don't want to have kids, that's cool too. If you need to go through a surrogate, if you need to do IVF, those are all, like, we've said throughout this whole episode, is we all have our own journey to take, and we all have our own lessons to learn, and
we should be happy in our decisions and, like, listen to ourselves and our intuition.
Yeah. And if you don't know somebody's situation, don't fucking ask.
No.
Like, come on.
No.
You don't know somebody's, like I said, for me, I don't know why. I just always had an inkling that I wasn't gonna be able to have kids. But it's not confirmed till 20 years later, basically. I
still think that's so interesting. But I feel like in that regard, like, if we all just listened to our intuition, we'd be able to know what is meant for us. Which is, like, for me, I've been kind of getting closer and closer to understanding myself and feeling that gut feeling of, like, no, it's not for you.
Yeah.
Which, but when you say you knew you couldn't have them, do you think there was, I don't know if you, I forgot if you mentioned this, but did you feel you wanted them?
I always felt, so this was before I think by the time I hit 30, I was like, I don't think I can have kids. And then I was like, well, maybe if I decided to have kids, maybe I would just adopt. There's so many kids that need to be loved out there.
Right.
But I also always knew I didn't want to do it by myself. So for me, right? Some people are strong, or I'm very strong, but I just
In
knew
different
for
ways.
me, yeah, I just knew that I just didn't want to do that by myself. And I didn't feel like the absolute pull. Like I never felt like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm ready now. I'm ready now, you know? Because I feel like adoption, you're taking on so much more. And I always felt like if I was going to adopt, it probably wasn't going to end up being a baby. It was probably going to be a little bit of an older child. And I think you have to be very, you know, emotionally ready for the toll that can take, because of whatever trauma that child's experienced. So I don't think I ever felt emotionally ready to take that on. And but then through my 30s, I mean, I was just having fun too. So I was in a long-term situationship, and he had kids who I absolutely loved. They were younger and they loved me and absolutely loved it. But obviously, you know, that didn't work out. And um, I moved back to California, and I think that the adoption thing was no longer in my mind. Um, and the pregnant thing, like I said, I just felt like I knew. So it was, I don't know how to explain it. It was, I feel like it was a continual evolution.
Yeah.
In regards to, like, I assumed I was gonna have kids, to I don't think I can have kids. Maybe I'll adopt, to, you know, I'm not emotionally ready to take that on, to just being like, well, you know, whatever happens, happens. So for me, it was kind of an evolution of things. It wasn't like one day I decided this or one day I decided that. Um, and then when me and Antonio got together and he said, you know, I have my kids and I don't want any more kids. You know, we need to, and when I was like, okay, that's fine. When I was okay with that, then that's where I made the decision, I guess. So not until I was in my 40s, really.
Yeah, that's so funny. I feel like, I mean, not funny, but I feel like that it's, I feel like that should be a little bit more for how it should be. Like, just go with it. Like, see what happens. Like, if you get married and have kids, you have kids. If you just happen to have kids, you know, deal with it when it happens. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not that you shouldn't be careful, because that's,
Right.
it's a big responsibility to just be
Yes.
having kids. But
Exactly.
like, if it happens, it happens. If it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. And like, there's not a right or wrong path. I feel, you know, and I do feel for women that can't have kids and really want them. Like, that's got to be not easy, but it's okay to not have kids. There's also a life without them that I think, like we said over and over again, should be normalized, and there's other ways to be fulfilled in life.
Yeah.
Um,
And believe me, our dogs are enough of a responsibility now, because
yeah, dogs are a lot.
I'm just saying, as much as I love our dogs, I was like, once we're done, we need to go on a break before we get on another dog.
Yeah, that's why I haven't gotten one.
Yeah, because you have to like find somebody to watch them. You can't just, I mean, you
It's so
can't
much
just
money.
like get up and go on vacation or to go here, to go there. Oh wait, is this dog friendly? Is it not dog friendly? Oh, do we have somebody to watch the dog? I am not, as I know, as we're both dog moms, I'm not comparing dogs to children. I'm just saying that's the most responsibility I can handle.
Right, same. Yeah, same.
I just want to make that clear.
And then, like, again, not comparing dogs to children, but I think now that I've had a dog that I've fallen in love with, that was like my little sidekick that went everywhere with me, literally went to college, different schools, road trips, everything with me, airplanes. I and have lost her. Yeah, and now that she's gone and I feel that loss, it has been really hard. I think she passed, when did Q, I think
No, Q passed November 3rd, day after my birthday.
Oh my God, Pookie was on my birthday. How funny.
Really?
Yeah, right on the day of my birthday. No, was it the day before? It was the day before my birthday. Horrible birthday. So the day before my birthday, Pookie passed. So I was January, February, March, April, or in May, almost in June, so 5 months. I am just still devastated, which I think is why also the child free thing got to me, just because I've been so sensitive in general, and like lonely lately. But I can't imagine what it would be like. Not that any mom should lose a kid, and that's very unnatural, but what it would be like to have empty nest syndrome, for instance. Like the when I had her, for instance, and this is just like probably a granular 1% of what it would be like to have children, but like feeling it gives me, like you're saying, it gives you like a good insight to like how grand and how much bigger it would be if you had kids. So having her, I remember I freaking loved her, took care of her, gave her the best life I could, but I remember as she got older, just thinking like, oh, even taking care of her, taking her to get groomed, taking her to the vet, like taking her out in the mornings, getting out of bed was such a hassle. I remember just being like, oh God, this is such a biatch. Like, just I
Yeah,
don't
because
want to
Q
take
could
care of
like
her.
towards the end, Q couldn't really hold it very long anymore.
Yeah.
Like hold his potty or anything. So I mean and so oftentimes he would end up peeing in, like we had Blair, like I would always put a potty pad in the stroller and then a blanket and everything, and he'd end up like
Aw.
before we could get to where he needed to be, like he'd already go poop or something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my poor. I mean,
But I mean, and
yeah,
that's like, okay, they're old. Like, that makes sense.
yeah,
But even before that, like when she was younger, I remember just like having to go home when I'm out all day and like just to take her out was a
yes,
pain in the butt. Having to take her to pick her up in the groomer was a pain in the butt. Like all these little things. And I remember thinking, like, honestly, I think I'm ready to let her go. Like, I've had her for years. She's past her prime. Like, not in a mean way. I freaking loved her. But there was like this torn thing in front of me that I didn't want her to go, but I was also ready for her to go. And then when it happened, I was devastated and like just like
same.
this heartbreak, this horrible. So I can't imagine what it's like to have kids. If that's just like a percentage of it, can you imagine having kids and having to take them to school, having to take them to the doctor, having to take them to their soccer practice,
Watch
and
them hurting.
yeah,
Watch them
hurting,
hurting. Watching them get their heart broken,
and
or
you don't
watching
want
them
to, but
get
you also
physically
love them.
ill. Yeah,
Oof,
like
I can't. If I already tested that with just a creature like an animal, I don't want to feel that attachment and love
oh girl.
and
I mean,
pain with a human.
I feel like that with my nieces and nephews, right? Like I love them so much. When my oldest nephew was born, I was like, how can you love something so much that
Yeah.
you just met? And I know how much I love my nieces and nephews.
See, I don't have. I mean, no, I have cousins that have kids, but I don't have nieces and
Yeah.
nephews, so I don't know that
Yeah, for
love.
me, I know how much I love my nieces and nephews, but uh and when they're your kids, there's even more, right? There's even more love. I couldn't have like I couldn't handle if something happened to my nieces and
No.
nephews. So I know I wouldn't be able to handle, like I see them getting heartbroken. I see like when stuff happens and it hurts me. And when you're a parent, that's even more exponential,
You're right.
that it hurts you, it affects you. You see, and there's certain things that you can't do. You have to let your kids be able to guide them, but let them live their life. Like there's just so many things that a parent has to decide
It's too
on a
much.
daily
Yeah.
basis, right? Like it's an infinite number of choices that you have to
Not to
make,
mention having to get along with like all other parents. Like
right? So I like, I mean, again, I know I don't have to deal with even that decision anymore, as I'm on a different
yeah.
path. But let me tell you, I'm gonna be so happy when I go. I'm gonna all over social media. I'm in for my hysterectomy.
I love it. You got to talk about it.
I will. It's been like I took this first dose of it's called lepto depo, something like that, and it's supposed to mimic the signs of menopause. So what they need to do is try and get my estrogen down to try and help my uterus go a little bit smaller, because it's already going to be a super complicated surgery.
Uh-huh.
But so they're trying, but I just had my first shot a couple of weeks ago, and I had it like a week before I start my cycle. My cycle was the normal as it always is, which is horrendous, right? Which is like,
Are you on any birth control?
no, now I can't be with this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's still horrible.
Oh, it's
Your whole
I
life.
bled through my wedding dress.
God.
Yeah. Even my sister, one of my sisters is a nurse practitioner. The other one works at a school, and she's the one that has the 4 boys. And she was helping me. And she told my other sister, I've never seen anybody that bad. Like, I had to, before and after, before the first dance, I had one of those pads that were like this long and an ultra size tampon. And I put it in right before the first dance. I had to change right after the first dance because I'd already bled through all that.
Did you say that you had gone to get tests and nobody knew until later?
I tried to get tests. Nobody would test me.
Because I literally just came across this on Instagram for some reason. I don't know why, and I didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like saying that this is something that women suffer. I think this is the same thing. That this is something women suffer with that isn't like that widely known. Is that correct, or is that a different
Well,
thing
I don't know if it's in regards to like condition or just in regards to not being heard.
Is that it was
Yeah.
not being heard? Like
Yeah.
that there was a lot of women that are like, I've been sick for years and nobody wanted to believe me.
Yeah. I will say this, and I said it on a previous podcast. To me, I used to want to only see women. Now, after what I've gone through, and it was the women, and it was my OBGYNs were white women, and they never believed me.
That's so crazy.
And the first time I was heard was when I was in the hospital, and my doctors were Indian.
And they believed
And
you?
and I was there, and they're like, when I said I want a hysterectomy, they're like, we can see why you want a hysterectomy. Like, it was like validation for the first time in my life. And then I went to follow up. My OBGYN, who was a white man, but he's gay, was like, yeah, I get it. Wait, what? You're hearing me? You're understanding me now? And they had to refer me out to UCSD. And my OBGYN is a Latino.
Huh.
And he's like, yeah, I mean,
and the women weren't really.
It was the women who, and now I've realized it's not, for me, I can't speak for anybody else. For me, I've realized it's not necessarily, scoot over a little bit this way. It's not necessarily the gender, it's the ethnicity for me. Because when I had white women doctors, they weren't listening to me.
Huh.
And once I got doctors that came from other communities of color and a gay white man, then that's when I finally heard.
Do white women have more chill periods? Is that
I don't know. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. I have no idea.
That's so weird.
I think, there's so much testing that doesn't happen for women, right? So much medical testing happens on men and not white men even, and not women. But there hasn't been like even testing on different things. So to get an IUD, super painful to get an IUD.
Horrible.
They don't give you any pain meds
Nope.
to do it. But, a man has the teeniest, tiniest thing in his testicle. Let's give you all the meds.
Yep.
Right? So you don't feel any pain, or you don't feel any, like, why is it expected of women that we have to in constant? Well, that's one of the reasons I ended up in the hospital, because I just thought I was having really bad cramps, because that's how bad my cramps are.
Oh.
Until I couldn't walk.
Oh,
and I was like,
you were at like a 12 pain level.
Yeah, when I was like basically forced to go to the emergency room.
Wow.
And they're like, oh shit, we got to get you like admitted. First they didn't know what it was, and then I had to have 2 softball sized drains inserted into me. Because I had so much pus and blood and everything that was built up.
Yeah, that's not normal.
No.
Dang. Yeah, it is really crazy how women's pain is like, oh, you can deal with it, and they don't realize how painful certain things can be. Did you have an IUD?
No.
So I got an IUD put in, and I can tell you, I have a little idea of what it's like to give birth. Like, I'm not kidding. I went there and they didn't tell me anything. I just expected like my doctor to tell me what I needed to know. but now I know I need to like research everything on my own. I was younger, so I didn't really understand, but he was like, oh, I used to have a male gynecologist. Now I have a female. Freaking love her. She's amazing. But I had a male who was like super old, and he just was not in touch with the female body, even though he was a gynecologist.
That's the only touch he had.
And yeah, and he like, I went to get the thing, and he tells me, he goes, you're gonna have 3 cramps. It's gonna be just like cramps. One, how the hell do you know what cramps are? You've never had them. But he's like, it's gonna feel like cramps. I'm like, okay, I can handle cramps, because I have bad cramps, but not as bad as you're describing. Like, just, you know, sometimes it's a shock and that's it. Sometimes I am in bed for a while, but I just put some heating pads on and I'm hunched over. I can deal. I don't feel like I'm gonna throw up or anything. And the first one, he's like, it's gonna be a little cramp. I felt it. It just felt like an oncoming cramp. And I was like, okay. Here's the second one. It hurt really bad, like a bad cramp. And I was like, oh my God. The third one was so bad that my blood pressure rose and I actually almost passed out. And I started crying immediately. And when he's like, you're all done. When he finished, I was like, I can't get up. I can't get out of here. They had to put me on a IV thing, a drip, because I just like was out of it, and I couldn't leave the office for like 40 minutes until like my brain stopped spinning and I came back. It was the most pain I literally felt like I was being tortured. Like, I came out of there and I called my husband crying. And I was like, oh, what just happened? Like, that felt horrible. And I asked the doctor, I was like, why did that hurt so much? And he's like, because you've never been dilated, and we basically dilated your cervix to put it in within like a second. So I was being dilated like you do when you have a baby, without even like being told that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Without any pain meds, without any knowledge of what was happening. And that's just like, how is that freaking possible? Until when I went to my other doctor, I had to get it removed at some point because it was crooked. And it was
all
like,
that, and it wasn't even done right.
placed correctly.
Oh
it was
gosh.
hurting when we were having sex and stuff, and like I was like, this isn't like, it was like poking my uterus. So I got it removed, and then I had it replaced. And by that time, I had another doctor. I was like, screw this doctor. I'm never going to him again, because what the hell was that? I get my new doctor, and I tell her when she has to replace him, like, you know, I was in a lot of pain. I need pain meds. And she goes, you're not going to be in pain. You shouldn't be in pain. I'm like, really? She's like, no, I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't doing it right. Let me do it. And I didn't feel anything with her. It felt fine. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell was happening, but it's hard to find people that you can trust with your body, and people that understand what your body does. And when it comes to gynos and stuff, or just, I mean, for me, the men weren't working out for me. You got lucky. You got some guys that like believed you and understood you. I don't know. Were they younger?
Yeah, they're younger. They're younger, and I think that also has a lot to do with it.
Maybe, I feel like the younger generation.
Maybe it's maybe if I went to a different OBGYN at this point, like another woman, maybe I would feel different. That was also like 20 years ago. Well, I'm so glad we had this conversation. We talked about a lot of things, but I'm so glad that I was like, hey, do you want to talk about this? Because first of all, we got to finally meet in person, which I can't believe we hadn't. Because I've been telling Francesca she needs to take me on thrifting. She needs to take me thrifting, because I am not a good thrifter.
I know, we gotta make it work. I haven't gone thrifting in a while, to be honest. So
I was like, she can do a video of teaching a newbie how to thrift.
Yeah, honestly, we're gonna make it happen. We'll make it happen.
But having these conversations are so important. So I'm so glad you said that you're willing to have this conversation with me.
I could talk about this forever, as you can tell. I'm just like all over this place with this combo.
No, I think it's good. It's great. These are things that we need to have. So please don't be afraid to have these conversations. Don't be afraid. Like, freaking message me, message Francesca if you feel like, oh, you know, if this helped, because
yeah, I think it helps talking about it also, and bringing it out, because you get to, like I said, I got stronger in like doing that, and I feel it's helped me even with like my family members, like talking about it more, thinking about it more, just any convo about being a woman, you know, not just being child free or whatever, just you know, any topic. It's helped me a lot, like when my family asks me, why don't you have kids, like, it's amazing, you're missing out, blah blah blah. It's helped me have like the what's the word, reflecting to be able to respond to them in a way that isn't toxic and also doesn't stick with me, so that they can understand where I'm coming from. And I think these conversations just help you overall, and maybe we can convince other people to not be so dull and judgmental when it comes to these topics, and just help other people see our points of view.
Yes, absolutely. Francesca's at Frank Vinyl.
Yes.
On Instagram. If you're not following her, you need to follow her. She is very fun to watch and follow.
I talk about fashion and travel, and I do fun creative transitions, all positive stuff. So it's not all child free.
It's not all this heavy stuff.
No, that just is sprinkled here and there.
Yes. So until next time, mi gente.
Hola, mi gente.
Saludos.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.